Mixing Masterclass, how you going today? I'm going well. You know who it is. It's David Perzino with Mixing Masterclass. And today we have an amazing guest. And I just want to let you know right off the bat what takeaways you can get from today's interview so you can stick around and really know what you're listening for. With our guest today, we are going to make sure that we figure out what is the biggest mistake audio engineers make and what are the takeaways from that mistake that you can study to fix your mistakes. We are also going to figure out, how do audio engineers get clients? Can you make a living as an audio engineer? What's the best microphone for recording vocals at home? How do you EQ vocals properly? How do you get the punchiest kick drum? So if you stick around, you will learn all those things. And today our guest has a Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Science, and a Master of Education degree, which led him to be a part-time music production educator at ASU. He has done voiceovers for Michael Phelps, the CEO of Culver's and ESPN. He had the honor of recording Dua Lipa before her Grammys. He has worked in studios all across the nation, created 5 original albums of his own, featured on national compilation CDs, Sirius XM, and has received many songwriting awards. He's the owner of the fabulous Brick Road studio right here that you see us in, where he's giving you that LA sound at an Arizona rate. Ladies and gentlemen, round of applause for the one and only Scott.
Hello.
Leader. Hey,
How's
man.
it going?
Good. Thank you for having me today.
Absolutely, man.
Hey, my intro. How about
Yeah, that was great. I should take you everywhere with me.
I've been doing my research as well after my first few interviews and really studying myself, and I think, with your Bachelor of Science, analyzing and studying yourself is very important, especially in the field of audio engineering. Constantly checking your mistakes and just seeing how you can improve upon them. So that's what I did for this intro and made sure that it was better than the last one.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Love it.
Thank you. Excellent. So let's just start with a little bit of your background. I saw you were born and raised in the East Coast?
Yeah, from New Jersey, land of Bruce Springsteen, from a central state of New Jersey. And I got out of there because I just don't do winter, really. That was
I can
it.
relate.
But, it was a good place to grow up and a lot of good musical opportunities, too.
Excellent. So what was it in New Jersey, do you think, that got you to leave and head west?
Well, really, it was weather. I was in college.
Altogether?
Yeah, I came to visit a buddy at U of A, and in February, and it was like 80 degrees and sunny, and girls in shorts everywhere, and then I go back to New Jersey to Rutgers, and there's a friggin' blizzard, and I'm shoveling snow off the roof of my house because it was so old. We were worried the roof was going to cave in, and I was done.
Scott said beaches and babes.
Exactly.
Oh, all right. To be funny, your dad was a piano player, is that correct?
Actually, no, it was my grandfather.
Okay.
Was a concert pianist, classically trained. And he died when I was 7, so I have some memories of him, but not much.
Okay.
I do know that he was injured in World War II, and the injury sort of prevented him from really continuing to play live and being on the road, and so he was mostly teaching private students.
All right. So I thought I read somewhere that it was your dad, so that is my mistake.
Yeah.
Was it your father who said he noticed your ear for music, though, or was that also your grandfather?
Yeah, it was my grandfather. My dad was. If you want to get into this conversation, he played guitar in a band, and in the '60s. So he, on one hand, could tell I had a talent for music and wanted to, support that, which he did. For my birthday, we went and bought a keyboard, which at the time wasn't cheap. And, my parents weren't wealthy. And so, he wanted me to have that and use it and encourage me to take lessons. But at the same time, when I started playing in a band circa 7th grade, 8th grade, he wasn't like thrilled with that because in his mind, we were doing what they were doing. right?
Right.
Which was a lot of
Party,
drugs.
party and rock star life.
Instead, we're in my buddy's basement playing Billy Joel songs
Right.
and Nintendo,
Power chords.
Right, exactly. So, so we kind of scraped a little bit. He wanted me to focus on school, and I wanted to focus more on music. And so there was a little bit of that going on. But my grandfather, though, like I said, he died when I was 7. And I wonder if he hadn't, if he would have insisted on classical training. Like if I would have been, at his house every week taking piano lessons, and how that trajectory might have changed me. So, who knows?
Well, I mean, you can go classical or you can go grunge, and I believe that was your first band, was a grunge band?
Yeah, it was late 80s kind of rock in the basement stuff. Yeah.
Do you remember the first song you guys wrote and what the name was?
The first song we wrote, oh man. Well, we did a lot of covers mostly. We did have a couple original songs, but I got to be honest, I don't remember. Like I remember like playing them, but I can't remember any of the lyrics, or because I wasn't the singer, I was a keyboard player, so I just kind of hung back and did my thing. But I don't think they were very good, to be honest.
When you were learning covers, what was your process for learning a cover song?
So for me, it was listening. This is really how I learned how to play piano for the most part. So, I said, we're old, so you got to cast yourself back to the days of a tape player. Yep. And, I had the tape player next to the piano on the boombox, and I put a song on and would listen to it, kind of like try and hear the chord changes, rewind, play it again, rewind, play it again. And I would kind of, work my way through the song that way. And, just sort of figure it out note by note. And then the more you do that, then the easier it became, because I started to hear the patterns in chords and recognize, intervals. Even though I didn't know these were the terms for these things, I kind of would hear that and realize, oh, okay, this song is kind of the same progression as that other song. Oh, I got it. And then you would hear it and do it. So really just kind of woodshedding through it, listening and playing.
Does it make it easier for you now knowing what intervals are when it comes to the songwriting process and arranging a chord progression?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I took music theory in college, and I highly recommend that. Just even one semester opened up a lot of doors in my mind, because I didn't know the names of the things that I knew, right? Like intervals or, sevenths or ninths. Like I played them and I understood, if I play the piano like this, I get that sound, but I didn't know what it was called. Right. And so knowing what it's called, it makes it a lot easier to communicate with other musicians. When you say, hey, we're doing a seventh here, a major seventh. Okay, great.
Terminology and communication.
Yeah. 100%. So that is important. I don't think you need any formal, music training per se, but being able to just know what you're talking about, I think is important. So
absolutely. When was the first time you traveled out of New Jersey for music?
For music, that would be during high school. I was kind of involved in I'm Jewish, so I was involved in my Jewish youth group scene, and music was a big part of it. So I was one of the people who would stand up there with their guitar and lead singing, basically. So there was a few opportunities through that to go travel to, we went to New York. I remember going to Atlanta one time for kind of bigger, youth group conferences, where I would go and represent the New Jersey people. That's cool. And they would send me because I could lead music for a bigger crowd. And those were valuable experiences, because you get up in front of a large group of people, and it was really scary the first time, but the more you do that, then it just becomes commonplace. And that was really important for, everything after.
That's cool. That's cool. Atlanta, what was the experience like for you being outside of your state and in another state, maybe for the first time, or at least?
Yeah, I mean, that was the first time I was anywhere without my parents, other than, a night somewhere. So I remember thinking it was cool. I remember, getting on the plane with my guitar. I thought I was a badass. It was awesome, right?
Rock star teenager.
Yeah. It was awesome.
That's cool. That's cool. So I think one of your pastimes, if I'm not mistaken, is playing poker.
Yeah, I do like poker.
Yeah, I'm a poker guy myself.
Oh, nice.
Texas Hold'em. It's nice to have something outside the studio or outside the home life to kind of just take your mind away, and nice little pastime. And poker is something I definitely gravitated towards too. And what other pastimes besides poker do you have?
Well, I do like to be outside. I like hiking. Um, my wife's very physically fit, so she's been pushing me of late to be more active and going to the gym, and I'm actually enjoying that. So
That's good.
we do that kind of stuff. And I'm a big like food and wine guy.
Okay.
So, we like wine and I like cooking. So I'm always, looking to cook something good and, and pair it with wine. So we're kind of into that. And of course, listening to music. Love seeing live music. Never gets old.
Awesome. What's the best place for wine in Arizona?
In Arizona,
Yeah.
just avoid all of it. It's
Oh.
off. Arizona wines, come on.
All right. So where do you have
It's like being from New Jersey. You don't go to New Jersey to visit your friends and be like, hey, is there a great taco spot here?
All right.
No, you go for like a corned beef sandwich or you go for Italian food.
Okay.
You come here, you're gonna have some legit, tortillas.
So are we taking a trip to California for the wine, or where are you headed?
Yeah, me personally, I'm a big Oregon Pinot Noir guy.
Okay.
So that's my favorite. Yeah, obviously California's great, and I like Italian wines too.
Yeah.
So
I've actually traveled up and down the Pacific Northwest, California, Oregon, Seattle. I could tell you that something's going on with that dirt up in Oregon. Definitely, first of all, just beautiful landscape.
Oh
up
yeah,
there.
yeah.
And a lot of crops and of all kind growing up there. So I can imagine. I haven't drank alcohol in about 13 years now, so wine wouldn't be something I partake in up there. But I can imagine, just with all of the produce I saw up there and everything growing up there, that they gotta have some phenomenal wine. Where's another one? Ooh, Palisade, Colorado. Have you heard of that?
I have not.
Okay, so vineyards.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, vineyards all through there. I worked for a company that sent me on the road marketing for them. So I traveled through all these different areas, and it was in the agricultural field. So Palisade, I believe Palisade, right?
Nice.
Tell me it's Palisade. I could be wrong. Don't do that.
Yeah, I'll Google it.
But there's an
We'll find it.
awesome wine community and grape
Oh, that's
community
great.
out there. So check that out. Let's talk about your voiceover recording for, first of all, the CEO of Culver's.
Yeah. They just found me randomly. They probably searched for, studio in Scottsdale.
Okay.
And, he does, if you've seen the Culver commercials, it's the owner, Craig, who does the voiceover for all the TV commercials and the radio spots.
And you had never heard of them before doing this? The
No.
restaurant?
Yeah, no, I never heard of them because I guess it's not an East Coast thing. Even though I've been
No.
here for 25 years, I never, I probably drove by it, but it just never was on my radar.
Being from the Midwest, Minnesota
Oh, well, that's true,
specifically.
yeah.
Yeah, Culver's
yeah.
is everywhere, and man.
He's a nice guy.
If you're comparing to like a Freddy's or, I mean, you can't even compare it to the two big ones, and then you're going to compare it to maybe a Freddy's, but Culver's, hands down.
Hands down, good.
And they got the best custard ice cream too, so shout
Nice.
out to Culver's. So you also had the opportunity to help Michael Phelps record his biography?
Yeah, so which was also, I think, a random occurrence. But he did a HBO special, which, if you haven't seen, is phenomenal. Just about his life, and he struggled with depression, and he's very vocal about like it's okay to not be okay, and
Absolutely.
helping athletes out. So they did that special. He came and did. There was a lot of voiceover for the special, so he came and did that. And he was a nice guy, and I actually said to him after, hey, listen, if you ever do other stuff like this, I'd appreciate it if you came back here.
Heck yeah.
And I think it worked out because he did a few other things. He did like a cycle commercial for something, and they had called him, and he told them to call me. So it was nice to get him in.
That's cool.
And
it's a good look into the multiple streams that can be generated as an audio engineer.
oh yeah,
I think a lot of people get, pigeonholed and think that all we do is record artists, but there's audio books, there's commercials, there's biographies that if you really think about it, you can branch out into and market yourself in so many other lanes. I just actually got my first publishing deal for sync placements.
nice.
So
Congrats.
getting that lane accomplished was a big deal for me, and I'm very understanding of not just
Yeah.
recording artists, because it's not a consistent.
Yeah, you can't just do one thing unless you're famous. you know,
Right.
then you can do the one thing that
Right.
people want you to do. But for everyone else, you have to be able to do multiple things.
Yep.
For
That
sure.
kind of can lead us into, can you make an income as an audio engineer? And I think as long as you are aware of the multiple streams and see what it takes to be good at those specific tasks involved in those streams and become good at them, you can market yourself in those streams and
Absolutely.
have a better shot at making an income.
Yeah. You have to be able to do it.
Sustainable.
Right. You have to be able to do that. It would be great if it was just all music all the time. And it's mostly music. But, every hour that nothing's happening here is an hour that you're not making any money.
Right.
So, building those relationships with voiceover people and audiobook publishers is a good thing because they keep coming back and they know you're reliable. They like your room because the people say, oh yeah, Scott was nice and the room was comfortable. Okay, great. That's all they need to hear. So the next time they just call you when they have someone in Arizona, that needs to do a book. So those things are important. They're not always as fun, but I'll tell you, to be honest, the audiobooks
You can learn.
You do. Some of them are actually really interesting.
Right.
But in terms of profit for the studio, it's pure profit. There's no expense. I'm not hiring musicians for anything. It's just the clock's running and I'm sitting there making money, even, for a day, even though it's not the most kind of glamorous type of project, it keeps the lights on so that you can do other things.
And like you're saying, no overhead.
Right.
I guess if you want to call it that, which is cool. That's cool. Okay. We'll do one more since we're talking about audiobooks.
All right.
And I think, at least my generation, I'm 41. Super funny guy, Rob Schneider.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You did an audiobook of Rob Schneider?
Yeah, we've done a few things with Rob. Again, random, the location of being in Scottsdale, I think, has been an advantage for some celebrities because a lot of celebrities live here. And, people don't realize that. They have winter homes here or they live here all the time because it's just, it's a good place to live. And so I think they found me because they needed him to do the voiceover for an animated series that he was doing. And so that was a multi-day, it was a pretty big project. That was really cool for me to watch because actually the engineers in California controlled the session via Source Connect. So I literally just set everything up and I didn't have to do anything. So I kind of just sat back and watched it go down. And he was great. He was really funny. They would have him read the script and he would do it. And then he'd be like, all right, hold on, let me give you another thing. And then he would improvise basically what the script said. And it was always 10 times funnier, and you could hear people laughing on the other end. And so that was cool. And because of that, he did his audiobook here because, I guess, he felt comfortable with me and liked the studio.
Right.
And he's been here a few times and, he's also a nice guy and yeah, pretty funny.
That's super crazy. So remotely, engineers in California were tapped into your system through Source Connect was the name you said? I've never heard that before.
Oh, really? Yeah, it's a pretty common occurrence these days because, you have someone on the other end and they want to coach the guy and they don't necessarily want to worry about things even though I know what I'm doing, but let's say I record it and then the level isn't hot enough and I send them the thing and they'll be like, yeah, this isn't, so they want to be able to control all of that. So, you could talk in the mic here, it goes through Source Connect and comes out on their Pro Tools session just as if they were in the room. And it's nice. They can talk back in the headphones and, I've had a few projects like that, like I said, which are great for me because I sometimes will just, set them up and leave and, go do something else. And you just say, call me if there's a problem. And it's great because it's you're billing for the studio. You're not even doing anything. Sometimes I work on anher project in the other studio at the same time. And that's really nice because then you're multitasking, double billing. Yeah. So it's good.
Well, that makes sense because the first important step to quality audio is the audio itself. So if it's not you who's touching it later, and it's another engineer that worked for Rob that is actually doing the editing, the revisions, and the mixing of it, and the processing of it. It's the quality, the initial input of that audio is very important to them so that, like you said, you're not sending them something that isn't loud enough, overcompressed, whatever the case may be, and they're able to get in your system and make sure they get what they want.
Right. Yeah. And it works pretty easy. It's great.
That's cool. All right. Tell me, because I know you've worked with quite a bit of local talent. From what I saw on your Instagram, a lot of pop singers. Tell me like one of them that you feel you've worked with here locally that has the it factor.
Yeah. So there's this girl
Not picking any favorites.
there's a girl named Evie Evie Arante, who's now 14, and I've known her for 2 years. So when she came in as a 12-year-old, I was just blown away. They came in just to do like a karaoke type track, right? Just have their kids sing. And I can tell right away, I was just like, holy cow, this kid is amazing. She's 12 years old. So I started talking to her parents, and her parents were totally normal, which was great because, sometimes you have like these parents that try and push their kids and think they're going to be famous. And they're just like, yeah, we don't know where she gets it from. And as long as she's having a good time, we're. Right. So I hooked her up with a voice coach that teaches lessons here at the studio named Emily Kay, and she's great too. Then kind of one thing led to another, and we decided to do a whole album for her. She's in the country lane.
Okay.
So we did an album of covers and one original song that she wrote, which is great. And it came out phenomenal. Nobody hears this and thinks they're listening to a 13-year-old.
I heard her voice. It's very mature.
Yeah, 14. She's great. And since then she's been doing some national anthems at basketball games and hockey games, and she was actually on America's Got Talent, and that's a whole nother conversation. Those shows, I think they're dumb, but the experience for her, I said,
right,
you know what, experience. That was great. You just got in front of right. Thousands of people and then millions of people, and you just got up there and sang, and she was great. So I told her father the other day, he asked me to do something, and I sent it to him, and he goes, oh, what do I owe you? I said, no, you don't owe me anything. Your daughter might be my retirement plan, so let's just be clear about that. Even if she takes me with her as her technical advisor, that's fine.
These are the engineers I like to come across, and that's why I asked that question, is because every now and again you may come across an artist that you are like, they're going to be somebody, and if I can put my time into them, it might not be a return immediately, but help develop them,
right,
and coach them, find them the coaches, and just believe in them. An artist having somebody to believe in them, and especially an audio engineer, is going to help make them sound good, just helps them, be more confident and pushes them and elevates them to that next level. And you as an audio engineer to do that, I think is a very, very admirable thing.
Oh, thank you.
I think because there's a lot of talent out there that really has it, like really, really has it. And they may even have the budget. But that doesn't mean that you have to charge them if you feel like, hey, work with me for your career, or you talk to their parents, whatever you guys negotiate, and say, hey, I'm going to do this work for her. I want to be there as she develops, if you guys will allow me to.
Yeah,
so that's awesome.
Right. And and it's not just the studio itself, because, this business, there are shady people in there and people who promise stuff, and, she's a young girl, and so I wanted her to have like positive role models too. So like the vocal coach I set her up with is, I know her, I know she's a good person, and, not going to rip off the parents, and, and she's going to learn a lot. And I've also introduced her to other local artists, singer-songwriters that I know are good people and like good role models for her, and have had them say, hey, do you want to hang out with this girl for an hour and just do like a writing session? And, I tell them it'll be worth your time because she's really talented and it'll be really good for her. And a few people have said, yeah, it's fun. Why not? And so it's just like helping her get like a good team of people behind her. So when an opportunity does come, she knows like who to ask for some advice, and, who she can trust that isn't just trying to like take advantage of her, and, that kind of thing. So
putting yourself out there as a resource, up front before anything occurs, builds trust and shows that over here you're going to see shade, over here you won't see shade. And, having that person for an artist is crucial when there is a lot of dirt out there to
Yeah, and you just be
dig
on,
through.
and like the honesty too, because like I told him, I said I want to ride her coattail. So even if she gets signed by her label and they'll have their own production team and their own people, be like, yeah, just take me with you. I'll tune her guitar, whatever,
And
whatever you need.
like you're saying, be forthcoming to her
Right.
parents and say, hey, I'm willing to do this as long as I'm along for the ride.
Right.
It's not like they shouldn't expect that either when, you're putting in the time and it goes unsaid. But man, that's an artist's dream right there. If anybody can talk about that, it would be that, if you actually have that factor and find the team around you, it can make it 100% easier on the artist to just create.
Yeah.
They don't have to worry about when can I come to the studio, who's going to mix this, is it going to sound good? All they have to do is sit down and write the music and get better at their art.
Exactly.
So that's really cool. Awesome. And I do believe she got the it factor. I'm right there with you too on that. Behind us here, we have some outboard gear.
Yeah, not a lot.
Not a lot, but you don't need a lot.
No.
Some people feel that outboard gear isn't necessary at all. I think it is. I think that I'm all in the box right now. And I tell you, if I could just amp up through one thing, it'd be great.
Yeah.
So you get different colors, different tones. You're able to dial in your tone instead of try to figure it out with a plug-in, and you can find that before you even press record. And we all know that the start of the audio is essential to a hot mix. And so out of all of your outboard gear back here, what do you think you could not live without?
That's going to be this guy right here, the Rupert Neve Shelford channel. Neve preamp plus EQ plus compressor.
Okay.
It's kind of like cheating. It sounds so good. And, it's just, putting it through, like you're saying, just so you can dial in the EQ and the compressor, keep it all analog before you go to Pro Tools. It just sounds great. Yeah.
Neve's a classic.
Yeah, that's my go-to for everything. I'd be a little lost without it.
Okay.
And then the second probably thing I couldn't live without is the CL1B compressor.
Okay.
Although if I had to give one up, I would give up that one because I love the compressor built into there. So
is there a specific style or genre that's going to work best with this compressor, or no?
No, not really. I mean, it just giving you that tube kind of saturation, tube warmth. I think that's good on everything.
Yeah.
Personally.
Okay.
So I'll use it. But what's interesting is some people don't like it. Like I've had a few people, a lot of artists can't hear one way or the other, but a few will hear it and say, oh, it's too warm, or it's too, and they know. And I'll say, yeah, that's I'll turn it off. It's okay. Put it back in the shelf.
So when an artist says something like that, you listen and you're okay with 100% being like, even though I think this sounds good, if they don't, you're okay with saying we're not going to use that?
Yeah, 99% of the time.
Okay.
Yeah, I never argue with people over that.
Okay.
I'll usually ask people too, and most of the time they'll say, well, I don't know. And I'll give them an option. Sometimes I'll say, well, look, here are your two choices. Like I put you on this mic and this pre, or I'll put you on this mic and this pre, which do you like better? And they'll just choose one, and then that's it. And they're both fine with me. Yeah.
Options. And do you usually let them hear how they sound on both so they can
Yeah,
make that
I'll have them
decision?
sing a chorus on each one, and then come in here. I said, listen to both, and and that's only if they're asking. Most of the time they don't ask, and I'll just set up what I like to use and go with it. Yeah.
All right, so now let's talk in the box a little bit. Would you prefer analog emulation with your plugins, or are you okay with digital plugins?
Yeah,
as
I'm
well?
kind of happy with both. I mean, there's some. I'll give you an example. So I don't have a lot of outboard gear. I used to have a lot more. And over the years, as the plugins have gotten really good, I've realized that, I'm just wasting space with this stuff that I don't use. So I sold off a lot of things. one of the only things I regret selling off was the distressor. But now the plug-in emulation of it is so good that I can't even tell the difference. So that's why I haven't bought another one. You know, like when I sold it, I kind of missed it, and I was thinking I might buy another one, and then the plugins came out, and I was like, well, for $50, that's a lot better than, you know, 1,000. So why not?
That distressor, that's a compressor, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Okay, so that helps me with
Empirical
this
Labs.
next question. What is your favorite distortion, or also called saturation? I don't really know the difference between distortion and saturation. Maybe saturation is more of a warmth.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. I think people
Yeah.
use the word.
What would be your favorite distortion or saturation plugin?
Oh, for plugin, you know, I mean, that would be the one, the
Okay.
distressor,
So it's got some
yeah,
distortion and saturation.
yeah, and you can
behind
really dial it up if you want. You know,
Okay.
you want to do it. And to be honest, I don't do a lot of that.
it. Yeah, because you're more warm with those genres.
Yeah, and also, I mean, I kind of get it going in the way that I want it to sound. But, you know, I guess there are times where when people send me things to mix, let's say, and then I can tell by the way they tracked it that maybe, yeah, this just needs a little bit of that like distortion, harmonic, something, and I'll throw it on there.
Okay. Do you DS coming in too, or do you use plugins for that?
No, I use plugins for that.
What's your go-to de-esser?
Just the Waves de-esser.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing fancy.
Old school.
Keep it simple. Yeah, I've been using Waves since kind of the beginning.
Me too.
And so because of that, I'm sort of locked in just because I don't really want to learn a lot of other things. And I don't really believe necessarily that, you know, if I use a Waves Q10 EQ versus like the Isotope EQ, like it's not gonna sound any different.
It's knowing how to use any
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I understand there's, you know, the different ones have sort of maybe a little different color or a different thing, but most of that you can't perceive.
Right.
So I've sort of stuck with Waves only because like I made the investment, as you probably did, and then you know it so well that it's like I really just don't want to start. You know, like how many EQs do I really need? There are a few other you know, plugin categories that I've acquired over the years, but mostly I would say like if you look at a mix, probably 90% of the plugins are Waves.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, my first investment with plugins was a Waves bundle. So when you when you make that investment, it's like I'm gonna use these. And if you spend the time, it doesn't really matter the plugin, you just spend the time learning it. How important would you say it is to read a manual of a plugin?
I think it's really important. You know, reading the manual, they're not always as intuitive as you think. And so I have found that oftentimes I'm looking at going, I have no idea what this does.
Yes.
You know, so I'll go look at it. And, you know, I think there's a lot of good videos now that are sometimes a little easier than like reading the manual if you don't want the technical stuff. But I always will take a time when I see a new plugin to at least watch a tutorial on it, just so I understand what the different, you know, things are doing, because sometimes you discover something really cool that you didn't even know was a part of, you know, part of that plugin. And, you know, some of them can be quite complicated. I will say too about Waves, you know, there's a lot of Waves haters out there because of their business model. I don't care. I mean, I understand why some people don't like subscriptions, or they don't like, you know, that they buy a plugin and then 3 years later they have to update it or whatever. But at the end of the day, you know, I'm approaching it from like, these are the tools that I use, and, you know, it costs what it costs.
Move with the times.
You got it. Yeah. It's like it's just the price of doing business. And the truth is I like the product. I think they're good. Right. So it's worth paying for it.
Yep.
You know, I'm not about to like stop using Waves because now it's a subscription and go to some other company that eventually is going to be a subscription anyway. So
correct.
Right.
Correct. And I agree with you on that part too, because when you invest, again, we're going back to that, into something, and then, okay, now it's subscription based. What are you going to do? Just stop using those plugins, and now you got to go invest in other ones that just aren't subscription based. So
right.
It's definitely a waste of time right there, and a waste of your investment. All right. So do you prefer, this is a good debate. Do you prefer to mix with faders? And if I say the wrong term, it's either unity or unison. I believe it's unity. Do you prefer to mix with your faders at unity gain?
No.
Okay.
No.
So you do some fader moves.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think you don't want to have, well, how do I explain this? When you're talking about like,
Because the linear, right? We're talking linear and a little
Yeah.
bit. So you don't want to have to come down past a certain.
yeah, like you don't want your faders to be just all over the place.
Right.
But I mean, there is gonna. I mean, yeah, I'm in there. I'm not, trying to like avoid doing that. There's no reason to avoid doing that. I think there's a lot of like misunderstandings and complicated things online that like newer engineers and producers get caught up in when it's really not important. Like, okay, you're gonna lower your fader, it's fine. Did it make it lower? Yes. Is your goal to make it lower in the mix? Then you've just solved the problem and you're good. Like no one cares about the technical reason for doing it that way versus another way. What I don't do is have faders pushed really far north.
No.
So you're not going to see, I mean, there's an exception. Sometimes I just, there's no choice, but like for the most part, I'm never going above that. There's going to be a little bit of this, a little bit of this, but you're never going to see them slammed all the way at the top. That's not going to happen.
Yeah. I've seen that and I don't understand that whatsoever.
Well, I tell my students, if you're doing that, just turn your speakers louder.
Yep.
And then you can bring all the faders back down. Turn your headphones up.
Yes. Yes. The output source.
Right.
Yep, definitely. All right. So are you, do you like to mix top down? And if so, what plugins are you mixing into?
What do you mean by top
So
down?
do you have any plugins on your master bus that you're mixing into the whole time while you're mixing?
Yes. I almost always have a multi-band compressor on the master track that I'll have going while I mix because I know I'm going to put it on at the end anyway. So it's like I do all that work, you put that on, and then, then you're going back to readjust things. I prefer to just do it all at the same time and kind of hear.
Is that helping, like, if I'm thinking correctly on why people do that technique is because you're leveling into it and you want to hit a certain threshold to help you know your loudest things are where the loudest things should be and everything else is sitting underneath that? Is that?
Yeah, it's partially that. It's partially that when, so that as I'm mixing, I can see like what's hitting that limiter and maybe decide, okay, well that's, I don't want, it's too,
louder.
yeah, right. Or if there's a part of the song where like it's not even touching it and it should be kissing it a little bit. So I like to just know that. But mostly I think it's just a function of like, I know I'm going to do that for the final mix anyway. So I might as well just leave it on. I think it's just a habit that I've formed. So now it's like, I'm used to hearing it that way.
Okay.
And so if it's not on, I kind of can tell.
Perception changes.
Yeah. So like, and to be honest, that's probably not the best way to do it, but I think it's just, I've been doing it that way. And that comes too from when I first started, I was still working with tape for the first couple years. So I was mixing out into a stereo compressor. In fact, this is one of the first pieces of gear I ever bought, this Neve 5043 Portico stereo compressor, and put the whole mix in there. And it just sounded awesome. Okay. And I don't even know why. It just does. And so that kind of became my habit where I was like, well, I'm just going to put it through the awesome machine, dial it in, and then mix that way. And so I think I started on that path of just like always hearing it with that sort of master bus compressor. And I should stipulate to you that it's usually very little. I'm not like hitting it hard. I just have just kind of like,
and that's what I was saying. It's like it shows you how loud things need to be when you got your threshold set and you're just kissing it like you're saying. Yeah. Me, for 7 years, I didn't do that for the first 7 years. I'm doing it now, and what I can say is it's taking some getting used to because, like you were saying, you're used to hearing things go in to something. I'm used to not hearing them go into something. But I can tell you this, that now that I am doing it, I can agree with you that what the final result is going to be, which is something is going to be on that bus eventually, and that's what you are going to hear at the end result. So hearing how things sound going into that